I didn't think much of it when Reese knocked on my door that Monday evening at first. It wasn't unusual for him to drop by unannounced, especially during football season. But something about his visit felt off. I'm Gavin. I'm 36 and live just outside of Cincinnati. I work as a drone technician for a logistics firm, mostly on the repair and calibration side. It's quiet, technical work, and I like it that way. Reese is my cousin. We grew up together, but we were never especially close. He's the charming type, always grinning, always talking a bit too loud, always making things about himself. The kind of guy who brings his own six-pack and still drinks half of yours. Dude, he said, slapping my back as I let him in. Been forever. You got the game on. I nodded, leading him into the living room. Yeah, kickoffs in 5. We cracked open some beers and settled in. The first quarter passed in idle chatter and clinking bottles, but I noticed something strange. He kept glancing at his phone, checking it way more than usual. And when it buzzed for the third time, he actually smiled down at it. You waiting on someone? I asked. Nah, he said too fast, then laughed. Just chatting. He leaned back, then added, So, where's Brianna tonight? I looked over at him. Out with coworkers. Some sales milestone, I guess. He raised his eyebrows. Again. Yeah. She said they're celebrating at that tapas place near the river. Reese gave a low whistle. Nice. Fancy stuff. I stared at the TV, but I wasn't really watching anymore. It wasn't just the way he asked. It was how he said her name. Too casually. Like he was checking a box. And it hit me that he'd brought her up within 5 minutes of walking in. Things hadn't been right between me and Brianna for a while. We hadn't been intimate in, maybe 5 weeks? Maybe more. Every time I tried, she had a headache. Or she'd had a long day. Or she wasn't in the mood. Always an excuse. I brought it up once, gently, and she just sighed like I was being needy. It wasn't just the sex. It was how she'd started keeping her phone face down on the table. How she didn't look me in the eye as much. How she laughed louder at texts than she did at anything I said. That night, after Reese left, said something about needing to hit the gym early, I waited up for Brianna. She came home around midnight, cheeks flushed, smelling like rose and some floral perfume I didn't recognize. Hey, I said, getting up from the couch. She blinked at me, surprised. Oh, you're still up. Wanted to see you. She smiled a little, but it didn't reach her eyes. You didn't have to. We went to bed, and I tried to pull her close. She was half asleep already, mumbling something I didn't catch. Then she shifted, turned her back to me, and muttered, Oh, it's just you. Just me. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, her words echoing in my head. Just me. Sleep didn't come easy after that. I kept replaying her voice in my head, soft, dismissive, like she was disappointed it was me and not someone else. Like I had crashed a dream she didn't want to wake from. By morning, I felt hollow. I got dressed, made some half-hearted coffee, and ended up in the garage, where I kept my tools and drone parts. It was always quiet out there, and I needed quiet. I don't even remember what I was looking for. Maybe just an excuse to not be in the same house. But as I dug through an old shelf of parts, I found a box tucked behind a dusty bin, my old digital camcorder. It had been years since I touched the thing. Probably hadn't used it since the DIY security setup I tried back when we first bought the house. I'd rigged it with motion sensors to test drone angles near the window. It didn't really work out, and I forgot all about it. I opened the battery compartment, and, to my surprise, it powered on. There was still a memory card inside, labeled in faded Sharpie, security. I plugged it into my laptop out of idle curiosity. At first, there were clips of me messing around with wiring near the bedroom window. Calibration tests. Static. Nothing important. But then I clicked on a newer folder. One that wasn't mine. The first video was grainy. Our bedroom. The angle was odd, like the camera had been placed discreetly in a corner where it could capture the whole bed. I frowned. Then the movement started. Brianna walked into frame, smiling. Not at the camera. At someone just outside the shot. And then Reese entered. I stared at the screen, unblinking, as they started kissing, laughing, collapsing onto the bed I had slept in the night before. My chest tightened like a fist around my ribs. I watched just long enough to confirm what I already knew. Then I slammed the laptop shut and sat there in stunned silence. Reese. My cousin. My own goddamn blood. By the time Brianna stumbled into the kitchen that morning, yawning and tying her robe, I had already transferred the files. Multiple copies. 2 flash drives, and 1 upload to a private drive. She poured herself coffee, not even looking at me. Everything okay? She asked, fake sweet. Where were you really last night? I asked quietly. She blinked. I told you. I was with the team. I nodded slowly. Right. Tapas and sangria. She laughed nervously. Don't do this, Gavin. Seriously. I stood up and turned on the TV. Pulled up the paused frame from the footage. Her half undressed, Reese's arm around her, both of them tangled in our sheets. Her mug slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. You want to try that again? I asked, staring at her. She didn't speak, just stared at the screen, jaw slack. Get out, I said. Wait. Gavin, please, let's talk about this. Get out of my house. That broke the spell. She grabbed her phone, keys, and nothing else. I heard the door slam behind her. By noon, I'd changed the locks. I called the bank and froze the joint account. Moved my money. Booked an appointment with a divorce attorney I found online. High ratings, specializes in contested and high-conflict separations. I wasn't going to fall apart. I was going to burn clean and start over. And I was going to bury them both, one signature at a time. 2 days after I found the footage, my boss called me into his office. It was one of those quiet, serious conversations. He shut the door and leaned back in his chair. Gavin, I know you've had some personal stuff going on, he said, not asking, just stating. But I need someone I can trust for this Denver situation. I blinked. Denver. He slid a folder across his desk. Clients threatening to pull their contract. Their last shipment got stuck in customs, and they're blaming our drone route mapping. I thumbed through the pages. He wasn't wrong, it was a mess. But Denver also meant 3 days away. Alone. Breathing room. I'll go, I said. He nodded. Good. Flight's Thursday. I'll have Valerie book your hotel. Valerie. My assistant. Sharp, dependable, quiet. She'd been with the company almost 4 years and never once crossed any lines. Honestly, I barely noticed her until recently. Now, I couldn't stop thinking about how she always seemed to know what I needed before I even said it. That night, I met with the attorney, Lisa Rayburn. Her office was in a sleek brick building downtown, walls lined with plaques and news clippings. She looked like she could gut someone with a smile, and I instantly felt better. She listened patiently as I laid out everything. The affair. The footage. Reese, you did the right thing copying the video, she said. And keeping financial separation? Smart. That'll help. She tapped her pen. Now, here's what I recommend. File first. Control the narrative. And if Reese tries to involve himself, we use it. Could I say she felt threatened? I asked slowly. Lisa looked up. By Reese. I nodded. He's been erratic. Showing up unannounced. Talking in circles. You have proof. I hesitated, then nodded. I'll get something. A message. A voicemail. She smiled. Then we'll use that to file for a protective order. Makes you look like the reasonable one. Gives us leverage. When I left her office, the air felt lighter. Like I'd finally shifted from victim to player. That night, I went home, locked the doors, and changed every password I could think of. I texted a coworker, Randy, who lived a few streets over. Asked him to keep an eye on the house while I was gone. You expecting trouble? He asked. Just covering my bases. Thursday morning came fast. I packed light, leaving the laptop with the footage locked in a safe under my bed. Valerie handed me my boarding pass at the office and gave me a soft look. Good luck out there. I gave her a nod. Thanks. As I sat at the gate waiting to board, I felt this strange mix of grief and relief. My marriage was a lie. My cousin was a snake. But for the first time in months, I had a plan. I was leaving town with the upper hand. And I was coming back with blood in my teeth. Coming back from Denver felt like stepping into a different version of my life. One where I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was shaping the next moves. The client situation went smoothly. A few tweaks to the drone protocols, some technical jargon to pacify the legal department, and by the end of the trip, the contract was back on track. My boss was thrilled. I smiled and nodded, but honestly, my head wasn't on the job. It was on everything I left behind. When I walked into the office Monday morning, Valerie was at her desk, typing something into her tablet. She looked up, gave me a little smile. Everything good in Denver? I hesitated. Yeah, no fires. She followed me into my office like she always did with my morning notes. As she set the folder on my desk, she paused. I saw you block Brianna on the shared calendar. I raised an eyebrow. You monitor that? Only the important stuff, she said. Then she turned to leave but added over her shoulder, If you ever need someone to talk to who isn't being paid to listen, I'm around. I didn't say anything right then, but I didn't stop thinking about it either. That Friday, I stayed late. On purpose. Valerie lingered, too. She brought a bottle of bourbon she just happened to have in her desk drawer, and we sat on the new leather couch I'd bought for the office, a sleek dark gray one that replaced the old wooden chairs. At some point, she kicked off her heels and tucked her feet under her. The conversation shifted from work to life to finally, her husband. Caught him sleeping with his secretary, she said flatly, eyes on the ceiling. After I put him through law school. Real original. I looked at her. You staying with him? Divorce papers are drafted, she said. I just need to decide how much revenge I want baked into the settlement. We both laughed, a little too hard. The air shifted. The first time we kissed, it was cautious, like we were still testing if this was really happening. By the time I pressed her back against the arm of the couch, all that caution was gone. The next few weeks became a blur of workdays and secret hotel meetups. We booked rooms under alias names. She liked Linda. I went with Ben. It was childish. It was addictive. She'd text. Late meeting. And I'd reply. Yeah. Boardroom is booked, though. Might need to pivot to the hotel on 5th. We'd laugh about it later over takeout in bed, both of us half-dressed, half-rebuilt. The thing about Valerie was she never asked for anything. Not pity, not promises. She just listened. When I told her about the footage, about Reese, about Brianna muttering, "It's just you," she didn't flinch. She thought she had you locked down, Valerie said once, her voice low in the hotel room. But she forgot something. What's that? You're not the kind of man you can just shelf and forget about. Back at the office, we played it straight. Valerie still wore her neutral blouses and kept our meeting notes clean. But I replaced all the furniture in my office, the lighting, the rug, even the art. I told my boss I was refreshing my headspace. He didn't care. He was just glad Denver went well. At night, Valerie and I started brainstorming, half joking, half serious, about how to keep our divorces clean and controlled. You give her the illusion of power, Valerie said. Let her think she's winning, then gut her with the truth. And you? I asked. She smirked. Oh, I'm building a file on mine. PI, bank records, secret crypto wallet. I'm going to walk away with everything but his dog. I leaned in. We make a good team. She nodded, sipping her drink. We do. And somewhere between that couch and that hotel bed, I stopped feeling like a man who'd been betrayed and started feeling like one who was about to win. By mid-October, Brianna started cracking. It began with a text. Can we talk? Please. Then a string of missed calls. I didn't answer. I let her twist in it. Valerie said it best one night as we watched TV from my couch, her legs draped over mine. She's not sorry, she said. She's spiraling. There's a difference. Still, I couldn't help but toy with it. I replied a few days later with, Sure. Coffee shop on 9th, noon tomorrow. Brianna showed up 10 minutes early. I waited 5 minutes past the hour before strolling in. She looked thinner, pale, even. I sat across from her, calm, arms folded. Thanks for coming, she said quickly, like she was afraid I'd change my mind mid-sentence. I didn't say anything. She swallowed. Gavin, what happened between me and Reese was stupid. It didn't mean anything. That line. I almost laughed out loud. Oh, I said. So the sex didn't count because it lacked emotional value? Her face flushed. It was a mistake. I leaned back. Yeah, the kind you make in my bed. While I was paying the mortgage. She blinked fast, like she was trying not to cry. I've been thinking, she said softly. Maybe we rushed into this separation. Maybe we shouldn't. I cut her off. You broke into the house last week. She looked stunned. I just wanted to talk. You changed the locks, I panicked. You cut the screen and climbed in through the laundry room, I said, calmly. Then you sliced your arm on the broken window trying to get back out. I didn't know what else to do, she whispered. I smiled, cold and easy. Well, I left the glass there till morning, just in case you came back. She recoiled, just slightly. A week later, she tried again, this time at the office. She showed up at reception in tears. Valerie intercepted her like a bouncer. I'll call security, she said, ice in her tone. Brianna backed off. That night, Valerie brought a small duffel bag over to my place. Nothing official, just a few clothes, toiletries, and her tablet. From then on, she started staying more nights than not. It wasn't a conversation, it just happened. One morning, I made 2 coffees without thinking. That's how I knew it was real. A few days later, Brianna tried a new tactic. I came home to find one of the tapes missing from my safe, the backup footage of her and Reese. The safe had been jimmied, sloppy work, like she used a screwdriver. Valerie stared at the empty slot and shook her head. She really thinks that was the only copy. I opened a different drawer and pulled out another flash drive. She took a blank one, I said. I switched them last week. We sat on the couch, sipping coffee, the stolen tape a minor hiccup in an otherwise flawless plan. She's unraveling, Valerie said. Let her, I replied. And we did. Brianna had played games with my trust, my dignity. Now it was my turn. But I didn't scream or slam doors. I just watched her come apart, quietly, strategically, and made damn sure she knew I was still holding all the real cards. It all came to a head on a Saturday night at a comedy club downtown. Valerie and I had started going out in public more, still low-key, still careful, but no more hiding in hotel rooms like fugitives. I figured if Brianna could sleep with my cousin in our bed, I could sit next to a woman who actually gave a damn about me while we laughed over overpriced cocktails. The place was packed. Brick walls, string lights, old-school mic stand at the front. Valerie wore a black blouse that made her look untouchable. I wore the smirk of a man who'd stopped giving a single damn what anyone thought. We were halfway through our second round when I spotted her. Brianna, back of the room, hair disheveled, sunglasses on inside, standing like she couldn't decide whether to bolt or charge forward. Valerie didn't notice at first. She was laughing at a joke about dating apps when Brianna started pushing her way through the tables. People stared. The comic paused, confused. Gavin, she shouted. Valerie's smile dropped. I stood slowly. Hey, I said coolly. You should leave. She ignored me and marched straight up to Valerie. You think you've won? She hissed, loud enough for the tables nearby to go dead silent. You think sleeping with him makes you special? Valerie stood up, calm as ever. I don't think I'm special. I think I'm not his cousin. That got a few gasps. Even the comic raised his eyebrows. Brianna's face twisted. She lunged. It wasn't a slap, more like an awkward shove that hit Valerie's shoulder. A glass clattered to the floor. That was it for me. I stepped between them, gently but firmly, and grabbed Brianna's wrist before she could try again. Go home, I said, before this gets worse. Behind her, a familiar face emerged from the crowd. Reese. Of course. He looked like hell. Beard patchy, collar stained, trying hard to look smug but failing. Bree, let's go, he mumbled. She turned to him like he was her escape rope. Don't tell me what to do. Then stop making a fool of yourself. I snapped. That did it. Reese tried to puff up, get loud. You want to do this now? I didn't respond. I just walked right up to him, close enough for him to smell every ounce of bourbon on my breath, and said quietly, You ever show your face around me again, I won't say a word. I'll just break your nose and let you explain it to HR. He blinked, stepped back. Brianna looked at him like he'd betrayed her. You're leaving? Reese didn't answer. He just slipped out the side door and disappeared into the night like a raccoon running from a porch light. Outside, the cold air hit like a slap. Brianna followed us into the parking lot, tears running down her cheeks now. Gavin, please, she sobbed. I made a mistake. We were in a bad place. I didn't know what I was doing. Valerie crossed her arms. You knew exactly what you were doing. I love you, Brianna said, eyes on me. I always have. She doesn't know you like I do. I exhaled. You're right. She doesn't. Then I looked at Valerie. She knows me better. Brianna stepped closer. You don't have to forgive me. Just don't hate me. I smiled, tight, distant, honest. I don't hate you. Then I took Valerie's hand and walked away. The next morning, I filed 2 additional complaints with my lawyer, one for criminal trespass and one for assault. Brianna wanted to play emotional roulette, but I was done gambling. Now I played for keeps. 2 weeks later, we met at the lawyer's office. Brianna, her attorney, me, and Lisa Rayburn, the steel-nerved woman I'd hired to make sure this thing ended on my terms. The conference room was sterile, glass table, gray chairs, water bottles lined up like trophies. Brianna looked deflated, hair pulled back in a rushed bun, pale lips, a blazer that hung off her like she'd borrowed it from someone else. Her lawyer, a younger guy named Mitch, opened the meeting with a bright, forced smile. We're hoping to wrap this up amicably, he said. My client is willing to be flexible, within reason. Lisa didn't flinch. We're prepared to be generous if Mrs. Dalton agrees to sign immediately. I slid a folder across the table. Inside, A reduced asset split. Still fair, still legal, but no alimony, no claim on my retirement accounts, no access to the business. Brianna flipped through the pages, her mouth tightening. "This isn't what we talked about," she said, voice sharp. "It's what's left," I replied. Her lawyer cleared his throat. "We were under the impression there was no longer evidence of misconduct." Lisa tilted her head. "Is that so?" Brianna's eyes flashed. Lisa leaned forward. "Because we're still prepared to submit the original footage as part of the divorce record, along with the copy Mrs. Dalton attempted to steal from my client's residence." That changed the air in the room. Brianna's face turned to stone. "That tape's gone," she said, almost smug. "You're right," I said. "You stole the wrong one." Mitch frowned. "Wait. What?" Lisa smiled politely. "Your client made a crucial error. She confessed to destroying what she believed was the only copy. That's obstruction. And it's on record." Brianna blinked. "That's not true. I never said that." Lisa pressed a button on a small recorder. Brianna's voice played back loud and clear from a phone call the week before. "I got rid of it, okay? You don't have anything on me anymore." Silence. Brianna's cheeks flamed. "That wasn't meant to be used." "But it was recorded legally," Lisa said calmly. "One-party consent in Ohio. It holds." Her lawyer looked at her, then back at the file. "Excuse us." They stepped out. I didn't speak. I just sipped my water and waited. 10 minutes later, they returned. Mitch looked like he'd aged a year. "She'll sign," he muttered. Brianna didn't look at me once as she signed the papers. Her hand trembled slightly, but she didn't say a word. When it was done, she stood and left without a goodbye. I didn't chase her. I didn't need to. Outside, Valerie was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against my truck with 2 coffees in hand. "Well?" she asked. I held up the signed papers. She smiled. "Finally free?" "Finally." We spent that weekend out in Hocking Hills, just us, no phones, no lawyers. The quiet was like medicine. It wasn't revenge. It was peace. And it was earned. A few weeks after the divorce was finalized, I bought a new mattress. That might sound small, but to me, it marked something huge. No more shared bed. No more memories stitched into sheets I couldn't stand to look at. I donated the old one and hauled the new one up myself, queen-sized, firm, clean. Valerie helped me pick it out. "You sure you want this one?" she asked, testing the corners. "Feels like a mattress for someone thinking long-term." I looked at her. "That bother you?" She shrugged, but smiled. "Just making sure you're not rushing into something." I wasn't. For the first time in years, I wasn't rushing anything. I was building slow, steady, from solid ground. And Valerie, well, she was right there with me. One quiet Saturday morning, I turned to her in bed, her hair a mess and her eyes still half shut. "Marry me." She blinked, then grinned. "You're lucky I haven't had coffee yet. Otherwise, I'd ask if you hit your head." "I'm serious." Valerie reached for my hand. "Ask me again in a year," she said gently. "If you still mean it, I'll say yes." It was the perfect answer. Smart. Grounded. The kind of answer that doesn't come from romance movies, but from someone who's been through hell and doesn't plan to go back. We started planning, not a wedding, but a future. Workplace policy meant we kept things quiet at the office. No hand-holding, no hints. But at home, we lived like a couple who'd been through fire and figured out how to breathe again. She slowly moved in. No labels, no grand announcement. One drawer became hers. Then the bathroom shelf. Then half the closet. It felt natural. It felt earned. Valerie's divorce was still pending, but she handled it like a sniper, methodical and clean. She hired a private investigator who turned up just enough evidence to shut her ex-husband up and get her out with everything she wanted. No drama. No theatrics. "Funny how calm things get when you hold the receipts," she said one night, pouring wine. As for Brianna, I heard through a coworker that she and Reese had moved into a cheap apartment across town. She'd left her job at the import company under stress-related circumstances. No one at the office missed her. Then, about 9 months after the divorce, I got a text from a mutual acquaintance. One sentence. "Reese gave her something she can't give back." I didn't reply, but I knew what it meant. A few days later, Valerie confirmed it. She showed me a thread on a gossip board connected to Reese's social circle. Word had spread that he'd cheated again. And this time, Brianna walked away with an STD. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. Okay, maybe a little. She burned down our life for him. Now she could enjoy the ashes. 12 months after I first asked, I asked again. We were hiking Red River Gorge, sun just starting to set, No one else around. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the ring. You still feel the same? Valerie didn't even blink. More than ever. We kept it quiet, just a courthouse thing. No guests. No drama. Just peace. She wore a navy blue dress. I wore a gray suit I hadn't touched since my first wedding. It fit better this time. It all did. We didn't need flowers or speeches or champagne. We had each other. And finally, we had a clean start. It was a wedding that brought it full circle, not mine this time, but a distant cousin's, someone I barely knew but couldn't find a polite reason to decline. Valerie and I were seated near the back, holding hands under the table, making whispered bets about who'd cry first during the vows. I spotted him during cocktail hour. Reese. He hadn't changed much, same greasy smirk, same cheap suit trying hard to look expensive. But there was a bloat to him now, a dullness in the eyes. Life had worn him out faster than it should have. When he noticed me, his face went tight. He glanced around like maybe Brianna would be nearby, but she wasn't. Word was they split months ago. Apparently Reese didn't enjoy sticking around once the fun stopped and the medical bills started piling up. I excused myself from the table and stepped outside, into the chilly evening air. I stood near the edge of the parking lot, just far enough from the music to hear myself think. 5 minutes later, I heard footsteps behind me. You gonna hit me, or just stare holes through the wall? His voice still carried that fake confidence, like he thought he could talk his way out of anything. I turned to face him. Nah, I said. I'm good. He shoved his hands in his pockets, looking down. Didn't think you'd still be angry. It's been a while. I'm not angry. He blinked. Then what are you? I stepped forward, close enough for him to feel the weight in my voice, but not so close I'd get arrested. I'm here to keep a promise. Reese didn't say anything. You remember when I found out? I said. I told myself I'd deal with you eventually. Not with shouting. Not with courts. Just face to face. He looked away, jaw tight. So here it is, I said. Face to face. And then I punched him. Not hard. Not dramatic. Just one clean shot to the ribs, low enough to leave a bruise, not high enough to leave a mark on his face. Enough to make him double over, cough, and know I'm in it. He staggered back, clutching his side. You're insane, he wheezed. No, I said. I'm finally done. I turned and walked back into the building, shoulders light. Inside, Valerie raised an eyebrow. You okay? Perfect. Later, I found out Reese was quietly blacklisted from most future family events. Word traveled fast. We stayed till the cake was cut, slow danced once, then left before the bouquet toss. Sometimes closure doesn't come from forgiveness. Sometimes it comes from keeping your word, quietly, firmly, with nothing left to prove.